Hey, welcome to Developer Day number 14. It's John and Justin here again. We're back from Thanksgiving. It's cold.
Yeah, very cold here in Utah.
Yeah.
Today we're going to talk a little bit more about the blog post we put up this week about places. I'm going to quickly summarize what the problem is. Basically right now, for development, it was easiest for us to geocode collections with just a simple point. There are many services out there that do that. We decided to import geonames and sort of run a place API ourselves. So we just say, oh, here's a string. It says this is for Knight-non-Thames, Worcestershire, England. You do a place lookup, get a longitude, latitude, attach it to that collection. Well, that works great for stuff that's down at the level of cities and towns. But when you get something, for example, the 1940 U.S. Census, that gets geocoded to the U.S. But if you take the U.S. as a point, it usually ends up in the middle, which is somewhere in northern Kansas, right?
Nice.
So, yeah, exactly. So unless you happen to be querying in the middle of nowhere in Kansas, you're not going to see the 1940 U.S. Census. So to solve that problem, we need to get shapes. We need a shape that represents the boundaries of the United States. So whenever we query anywhere in the United States, those collections like the U.S. Censuses will show up. So we did some research, asked some people, asked around, looked at data, and nobody has a service that will do that. So it looks like we're going to have to build it.
Yeah, so essentially, like Justin was saying, the service we need to build would just take in a string and do a search on that, something Elasticsearch is very good at and other services, and then the output of that would be a shape. It could be a GeoJSON point, or it could be an actual boundary or a set of boundaries in the case of islands or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to go build one of those because it doesn't exist.
Yeah, one caveat there is that we found some services where we could perhaps query if we had the exact string, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is we need to handle misspellings, alternative names, maybe it's missing, for example, in OSM, Knight-non-Thames is Knight-non-Thames CP for a civil parish, I guess.
Yeah.
But so if you don't have the CP on there, we can't find it. And so we need something that does fuzzy string searching.
So we looked around, and we would love to use the OSM data, but the way they store that data is a system of nodes, ways, and relations, and it's a little bit insane. We could run our own OSM server, which would be an interesting challenge in itself, just starting that thing up and write some stuff on top of it, but it won't. It would give us some of what we need, but it doesn't deal with historical stuff well. It doesn't really have any historical place names. Yorkshire, England, when they split it into sections, it just, old records just don't geocode anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we need something that does historical places. And there's some other services that do historical places, but they do it to points, such as Family Search's.
Family Search does that, I think.
In their place, they have a place API that they use. But it's only points, it's not actually shapes. So we are essentially creating an open source project to create a historical place database that gives points and or shapes divided by year. So you pass in a string and you pass in a year you're actually looking for, and it will give you the corresponding shape and or position of that place at that point of time. Sounds incredibly simple. It kind of is, but it just doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're going to have to go build it. That's what we're working on this next week. We gotta load it up at least with
OSM.
Yeah, at least with some OSM data at the country and the state/county level, just to get some of the things like the censuses in there. So that's what we'll be doing next week and what we've been experimenting with this week.
So we think we might be able to get it to a state working where we can use it for our own data next week. If so, you might see a demo. But that's what we're thinking about heads down now. So that's been
really
Justin and John for Developer Day number 14. Thanks for watching.